So, good afternoon, class. Good afternoon. So, just before we go ahead and start with another discussion about geometry, but we also, again, we need to start our class with our prayer. And just like the old times or before, we will go ahead and do our individual prayers silently. So let us all bow down our heads as we all says, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Great. So, how's everyone doing? Doing great. Well, that's good to hear. How are you, John? You're feeling better now? I see. Well, always take your meal during lunchtime, okay? So that it will not hurt your stomach. Okay, well, that's good to know. So, let's go ahead and proceed with our discussion. And for today, we will talk about what we have discussed yesterday. Well, I gave you the definition of a solid figure, right? So, as a recap, what is a solid figure? Yes, Jane, what's a solid figure? Oh, yeah, definitely. You are right, Jane. A solid figure is an object that has a three-dimensional shape. So when we say three-dimensional shape, an object that has length, width, height, and can take up a space. Right? So again, a solid figure is a three-dimensional shapes. Okay? Great. So now, let's go ahead and let me introduce you a solid the very first solid figure. So I will be showing you a real life example of that specific solid figure, and we will go ahead and identify that together as once we are done with the discussion. Okay, are we good with that? So I'll start with the definition first, and the very first solid figure that we have is defined as a regular solid figure that has 6 equal sizes, or 6 equal square sizes. And that solid figure is called cube. And this is how a cube looks like. Okay? Great. So again, a cube is what, John? Thank you. Yes, a cube is defined once again as a regular solid figure that has 6 equal square faces or sides. Okay? Great. So let's proceed with the second one. The second solid figure that we have is what we call a prism. So what's a prism? Joy. Absolutely right. Thank you, Joy. It is a solid figure that has 2 congruent parallel faces with any number of sides. So in other words, a prism has many number of faces or sides as long as it has 2 congruent or 2 parallel faces. When we say parallel, it has the same size with, it could be the first face and the second face. And that these are the examples of a prism. So we have a lot of types of prism. We have square prisms, we have triangular prisms, we have rectangular prism, and a lot more. Okay? But we will go ahead and discuss the types of prisms on the following days. But let's just focus that a prism is identified as a type of a figure that has many faces, as long as it has 2 parallel faces. Okay, so that's how you are going to identify a prism. So any idea of an object that looks like the pictures that we have? Any chocolate, probably? I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and show you a picture of these of these figures as we go along the discussion. Okay? Great. So let's go ahead and proceed to the next one. Rihanna, please read the definition of the third solid figure, which is called pyramid. Thank you, Rihanna. Yes, pyramid is defined as a solid figure with one base. So when we say when the base is at the bottom, okay, it has one base and at least 3 triangular faces. Okay, so again, this is a solid figure with one base and has at least three triangular faces. So when we say at least, it's the minimum triangular faces that you can count in that specific figure. Okay, so it can be 4, it can be 5 triangular faces. The minimum is at least 3 triangular faces to make it as a pyramid. Okay, great. So the next one that we will have is what this is really familiar with the boys, and of course with the girls if you are playing volleyball, because a sphere is defined as a solid figure that does not have any faces and no edges, but it is completely round. Okay, and an example of that is a ball. It could be the one that boys use for basketball, or it could be the one that girls uses for volleyball. Okay, great. So the next one that we have is what we call cone. So what is a cone? Yes, Jane? So yes, a cone is a solid figure that has one face but does not have any sides or edges. Its face is on the shape of a circle at the base. Okay? So again, a cone is a solid figure that has one face but has no edges or sides. That is what we call as a cone, and this is how a cone looks like. So anything that is familiar, any item that is looks like a cone, something that is delicious probably. Absolutely, an ice cream cone is an example of a cone, a real life object that represents or reflects the solid figure called cone. Okay. Great. So the next one that we have is what we call cylinder. Michael, please read what is a cylinder. Good job. Thank you. Yes, a cylinder has a 2 circle bases joined with a curved surface. So again, a cylinder has 2 circular bases. It's at the top and at the bottom, and it is joined with a what? A curved surface. So it is joined with a curved surface. That is what we call a cylinder. So any food, I'm really fond of food, that's why I'm asking you. Any food that looks like this? Not quite familiar. Well, I'm very fan of that food, and yeah, that's like a cheap chips. Sorry, it's cheap, and it's a chip that I used to eat, especially if I'm stressed. Anyways, going back to the topic. So again, a cylinder has 2 circular shapes that's at the top and then at the bottom. Then it is connected with a curved surface. Okay, that's what we call a cylinder. So those are the figures. I'm sorry. Yeah, those are the solid figures that we will go ahead and discuss. So again, let's start with the very first one. The very first solid figure is what we call what's the very first solid figure, Jane? Absolutely, it's a cube. The very first solid figure that we have discussed is a cube. And again, a cube is a solid figure that has 6 equal square faces. Okay? It's it's the same with a box. You know what's a box, right? Very good, class. So definitely, again, it's a solid figure that has 6 equal faces, 6 square equal faces. Now, the next one is what? Anna, what's the next solid figure that we have discussed? A prism. Thank you, Anna. Yes, it's a prism. Now, Jane, what is a prism? Absolutely. A prism is a solid figure that has 2 congruent parallel faces, but it can have a lot of sides or faces. Okay? Thank you, Jane. Now, the next one. John, define a pyramid. And do we have anyone who would like to help John? Yes, James. What's a pyramid? Very good, James. So, John, a pyramid, as per James, and as what was discussed a while ago, is a solid figure that has 1 base and has at least 3 triangular faces. Okay? Again, it has 1 base plus the 3 triangular faces as the minimum face that you can see on a pyramid. Okay? Great. Now, the next one is what we call what? John? Any idea with the next one that we've discussed? A sphere. Absolutely, John. Thank you. Well, again, a sphere is it doesn't have any edges and it is completely round. So we don't call it ball, but we call it sphere in geometry. Okay? Great. So we have second to the last. May, what's the second to the last solid figure that we have discussed? It has 1 face, but it has 1 face at the bottom, but doesn't have any edges. 1 face at the bottom, but it does not have any edges. Absolutely, very good. So it is what we call as a cone. A cone is a solid figure that has 1 face, but does not have any edges. Okay? Great. So the last one that we have is, yes, Jane. Absolutely. Thank you, Jane. So the very last solid figure that we have discussed is what we call a cylinder. And again, a cylinder has two circular bases, the one at the top and the one at the bottom. It is connected by a curved surface. Okay? So a circular shape at the top and another circular shape at the bottom that is connected with a curved surface. That's what we call a cylinder. Great. So to test your understanding, we will now go ahead and proceed with identifying the objects or the pictures that I will be showing to you. So the very first picture is going to be identified by John. Please stand up. So that solid figure, what type of solid figure is this? Absolutely, John. So this pictures is somewhat the same with the pyramid. So this is the pyramid of Egypt, and the other one is the rest of it. It's also called a pyramid, and it's a restaurant that is located here in Cebu, specifically in Lahog, Cebu City. They have good foods there. So if you want, you can go ahead and tell your mom to bring you there. Anyways, yeah, so again, a pyramid has at least 3 triangular faces. So let's count how many faces is shown. So we have this, and the one at the back. Could be, right? And it has one base. So the base is the one that they have at the bottom. Okay? Great. So the next one is John. I'm sorry. Thank you, John. Jane, what's the next example that we have here? It's a type of a solid figure called, absolutely, the one that you've answered, cylinder. So it has a circular a circular shape at the top, and at the bottom then it is connected with a curved surface. Great. Now, Anna, please stand up. Thank you, Jane. What is this picture in front of me? Please identify the object and identify what type of solid figure it represents. Yes, Anna? Oh, so this one is what we call the this one is what we call the ice cream cone. The other one is used during you can see this on the road, used usually by traffic enforcers, right? Yes, this can be seen on the road. Who's living in Mandaue, you can see that across the church. We have that there. Okay? And this is what we call what, Anna? Absolutely, it is called a cone. Great. So what's a cone? A cone, again, has one face but has no edges. The face is at the bottom, or it could be at the top. If it's an ice cream cone, it's at the top, and the next shape doesn't have any edges. Okay? Great. So the next one, who can guess? Yes, May. What's this object is called? It is called a cube. Very good, May. So a cube has 6 equal square sizes or spaces. Okay? So who's playing this one? The Rubik's cube. That's an intelligent game. I don't usually play that, but yes, I can play that game, but I'm not really into games. That's why. And the other one is what we call a letter Q. Yes, it is usually used by kindergartens. If you can still remember, during your nursery days or kindergartens, you have this as in your classrooms, right? Some of you has this. Absolutely. So the last one that we will go ahead and show is what we call the prism. So remember my question a while ago when I asked you, do you remember any chocolate that somewhat looks like a prism? And that chocolate is what we call the Toblerone. The Toblerone chocolate, the packaging of the chocolate is a type of a prism. What type of prism? Again, we will discuss that on our following meetings or next discussions. Okay? Great. So, oh, sorry. I still have one last. The 6th one. This is what we call, let me answer it. This is what we call a sphere. So we have here as an example, which is a fruit, an orange fruit. We have globe or the planet Earth as an example of a sphere. And we also have the basketball. Great. So those are the examples of sphere. Some of the examples of sphere. Any questions or clarifications? None? Great. So let me go ahead and continue with our application, in which you guys will be asked to answer the following. So what you need to do is you need to get a page. I'll just give you a piece of bond paper. I need you to write it in a piece of bond paper. At the top part, you need to divide the band. Let me get a bond paper. Here, So I'll give you this. You need to go ahead and answer the first one at the top, because at the next part, you have there the question for the next discussion that we will have. Okay? So I need you to answer what's on the first page. It's a blank one. The second page has the questions that you need to answer for your assessment. Okay? So on instruction, you need to write your name at the top, followed by your grade, which is grade in section, grade for peach, and the date for today. Okay, so instruction. All you just need to do is to match column A's definition to column B. So if number 1 statement here says that it has no edges and it is a completely round. So you need to find it in column B. What is the type of solid figure being defined in number 1, column A? Okay? Got it? Great. So please get this one papers distributed. So you guys done answering the applications. So what's the assessment? Done with this one? How about the assessment at the back? Done? Okay, I'll give you another 2 minutes to complete it. After 2 minutes, all papers should be in front already in a count of 3. Okay? Great. 2 minutes is up. I need all papers in front in a count of 3. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. And now please put that paper at the back in my table. Thank you. So I'll go ahead and check your assessment. So as the application that you've answered a while ago, I'll check that later after the class, and I'll give it to you tomorrow so that you can show it to your parents. Okay? Great. So now, just before I go ahead and send you home, we'll discuss your assignment first. So what should you do is each student must submit their own handmade solid figure. So you need to create a solid figure, handmade solid figure, okay? You may use a cardboard or an illustration board in doing so. So again, what are the 6 solid figures? We have cone, we have sphere, yes, we have cylinder, we have cube, we have prism, and what is the last one? Yes? We have cone, sphere, cylinder, prism, and what? What's the other one? The 6th one? Again? I'm sorry, what's the 6th one? Absolutely. So we have pyramid. So we have cone, cylinder, pyramid, prism, cube, and sphere. So you need to create those 6 and submit it tomorrow. Question. Question. Of course. Yes, John. Yes, of course. You need to put a name on each solid figure. You need to put the type of solid figure and right below is your name. Okay, so that I can identify who made that. Great. Thank you for that question, John. Any other questions? None? Well, if that's the case, then we're all set for today. Thank you so much for your time, class. I hope you've learned something, or you've learned a lot for today's discussion. Well, you go ahead and have a great day. Thank you.